Ectosage here on the Sage channel. That's Sleep, Art, Game, and Eat. And today I'm showing off the largest ship I have built yet, which I am calling the Gladius. Now, the Gladius is basically a warship, and like many of my warships, it doesn't really have any rear defenses to, well, prevent itself from being flanked, but like many of my warships, it does have fighter bays. This one actually has 6. Now, the idea behind this is that it could release fighters to attack enemy craft, enemy fighters, but also to keep anything from trying to trail behind it and just doing damage to its engines over time. The ship itself is ridiculously long, and the outside of it has this sort of modular design to it, where it's basically engine block, 3 of these weapons systems, the hangar and missile turrets up there. Then it just repeats all the way to the front, where we have basically one more little weapon system. These are Gatling guns on these tiny little areas. And then the communication hub and small braking engines, if I actually fly around up here. As you can see, we have the braking engines there and there. Inside of this, there's communications. And at the very front here, we actually have 4 more missile launchers directly facing out. And they would only be able to hit stuff directly in front of the ship, so not much, but it's better than having nothing at the front, I figured, because the ship can pursue. The main idea behind this ship's attacking would be at a distance, nothing close up. It wouldn't want that, because, well, that's the idea of it, but also because these guns are, well, they're very limited in where they can aim. They can only aim out of these small slits, basically. But that's also to keep them safer, and because in this game, guns require, you know, a 3x3 space around them, or a 3x3 space around them, so they're slightly limited in where you can put them. Like, ideally, I would rather have them sort of right here and here. But of course, you can't do that, so I end up putting them in there, which limits them greatly, but it looks a lot cooler than just having them stuck on the outside of the ship. And also, if the ship is designed to attack only from afar, you shouldn't be losing much as long as the guns can actually reach, which hopefully they will be able to. Now, this is basically, you know, what I've just shown, a normal, one of the little weapon sections that I was talking about being modular. At the top here, if you look down here, we actually have a ladder that goes down to, let me turn on my UI, down to basically a catwalk area under it. And actually, if we go all the way over here, you'll see gravity switches and changes. I'll get to why that is later, but that's at the very front of the ship. Let me get actually back up there really quick. Alright, I got stuck over there for a minute. I had to cut that out. Anyway, I don't actually need to go back up there. I'll just run down this hallway. Basically, down this hallway, you can see more ladders heading up to each one of those weapons platforms. And this was an awfully large gap between them, so I think if we head up here, this should be into, yep, the large missile area. This is the one directly above the hangar bays. And basically we have 3 of these for, you know, one above each of the 2 hangars. And actually, the ship is also mirrored top to bottom, so we do have these weapons on the bottom, except for the ladders and whatnot are designed slightly differently. I'll show you that in a minute. But up here we have our missile turrets. The opening here had to be double, you know, the height, because these are actually much larger than the Gatling turrets, and otherwise it looked like their missiles would just be hitting the wall in front of them. Also, this allows them to aim slightly, which, you know, you'd think missiles wouldn't really need to do, because a missile would go out and then hopefully seek its target, but who knows? We actually don't know how these weapons work yet in this current build of the game. Maybe these will be direct line of sight missiles that will not guide themselves. If we carry down this way, you can see more of the turrets, more of the weapon sections, as I said. And it basically repeats all the way down to the engine section that I was showing at the very beginning. On the sides of the engine section here, you can see these little things sticking out here. These are actually conveyors. And currently you can't access conveyors, but I'm hoping in the future you'll be able to basically connect to a conveyor, and anything the conveyor is connected to, you'll be able to access. So now if we actually go over here, remember the bottom of the ship, down here is basically a mirror image of the top of the ship. The weapons are actually designed in such a way that they can aim out the sides and straight down, just as the other turrets. I'm not sure I showed this, but basically there's on the other top of the ship, there's a slit like this so they can aim out the top of the ship if need be as well. Now, the ladders here, though, because of the way the gravity's set up, and I couldn't have mirrored gravity, so, you know, top half of the ship would be walking one way, the bottom half would be walking the other way, because the ship wasn't quite large enough to space the gravity generators out enough. I have the ladders coming down like this. That way, if the ship's moving and you don't want to use your jetpacks, because you might be tossed around if you still have your inertial dampeners on, you can press T, hop on this, and still be able to climb up the ladder into the crawl space for the bottom turrets, just as we had the crawl space for the top turrets. We get up here, we press T again, it puts us off, and voila, we have this crawl space through the whole top of the ship. well, pretty much the whole top of the ship. I think there's an area all the way down at the back where there's 2 or 3 of those turret sections that actually do not have the ladders heading up to them. And actually, did I say top of the ship? I meant bottom of the ship. It's really easy to get turned around considering everything's mirrored. Now, really quick, let's get back outside of the ship, and I will go back down here. Well, missile turrets don't have that slit, by the way, because they're, like I said earlier, I wasn't sure if the missiles would be able to reach through just a single slit hole. So that is one of the limitations of the large turrets, the missile turrets. Now, if we fly, oh, by the way, this was a funny thing while I was building. I started down there and just sort of came this way. I was like, oh, am I going to hit that while building? Barely missed that. And when I start moving the ship, we're going to have to be careful about that. Now, I guess since I'm right here, I can actually just start from the front of the ship and work my way all the way to the back since I'm here now. Here are more of those conveyors. Basically, the other ones way down at the bottom of the ship, or back of the ship that I was talking about, those conveyors that were sticking out the side, were the idea that a large fuel ship could dock with those and I actually have storage containers back. Oh, who am I kidding? I'll just jump down there and I'll start from the back since I already started explaining that. Alrighty, so we're down here. Here are those connectors, and I'm actually going to fly into the ship through here. This is the only sort of like docking area for other large ships. We're going to ignore all this for now. We're just going to run through here, through the command center, which all these together actually do look nice. I originally didn't like that, but it's growing on me more and more. But so we go through that airlock there, and this is basically the engine area. So this is how all the engines are set up inside to allow the ship to turn and to go up and down. Its up and down power is very limited because it's only got 3 engines there, and there. This whole ship was built with the mirror tool, so it sped things up a whole lot, being able to just put them down here and they'd instantly be up there and on the other side as well. But as for the conveyors I was talking about, you can see right here is actually where it goes through the outer wall of the ship and comes in here, and I have these conveyors all connected, as you can see them running about, to all these storage containers. And the idea is that you'd be able to access the conveyor from the outside and put fuel into all these storage containers. That way the ship's engines and mainly reactors back here could remain powered. Because one of the new things I found out with the latest update, if I can click on there, press T and then K, it should show you the large reactor. But if we go into here, the large reactor, in like the base sort of like setup areas where you have pre-built ships and stuff, I found that the reactors usually have stuff in them. So I'm figuring the reactors will actually have to be fueled. And hopefully if a reactor is touching another reactor, fuel will be able to go through one to the other, which is why I have these conveyors going from the fuel storage to all the reactors, or at least the first row of reactors, which then go back farther behind them, and hopefully fuel will go through them. Down here I think I might have missed one. Nope, it's connected to this one, which is then connected to the ones that go back farther, so everything should be hooked up if the conveyors work like that and automatically draw X needed fuel for the reactors out of these through the conveyor and into the reactor itself. And the engines, I believe, do not have to be directly hooked up, they're just power. If we head over here, we have an interesting little thing I can show right up here, which is an emergency control room. Just in case the ship's taken over and there's only one guy left, it's slightly hidden, so he would be able to fly up here and work on the last control, and hopefully still keep the ship actually under good guy control, or whoever's controlling the ship's control. And that's an emergency reactor right there. Now if we were to go back down all the way to the bottom here, you can see I have some open space under the ship, and basically there's a lot of empty areas in this whole ship where I've put supports to keep things from separating and flying away and stuff, and turrets to make sure if enemies do board this area, hopefully they won't be able to just float around and get away with stuff. Now some areas I have left out some stuff where there is trouble about, where enemies could get through, but I was getting so many crashes I decided, you know what, proof of concept is there. I'm sure by the time we actually get multiplayer and then some things might change. I'm sure once we get weapons in, a lot of things will change. I can always come back and rework this, so I'm leaving that as is for now. If we go all the way down here though, you can see one of our main gyroscope arrays, basically 1,000,001 gyroscopes here to allow the ship to turn. It still is very sluggish because it is an incredibly huge and heavy ship. A lot of mass, I mean. If we come back out here of this row here, since it is mirrored, we have more gyroscopes if you look down there, or up there, whichever way you like to think of it. And now we're going to go back into the actual main hallways of the ship, which are right here. and we can actually start a tour from the inside now. Now this is the control room, the main control area of the whole ship. Currently, obviously, all these controls do the same exact thing, but maybe one day you'll be able to have special controls for maybe weapons targeting, setting priorities, maybe different things for power regulation. Who knows? Could be a lot of different stuff. But if you look around, there are also turrets in here. Basically, it looks sort of ominous, like, you will work, you will control the ship, or we'll shoot you. But no, the idea is it's the bridge. It needs to be the most protected. That way, if somebody tries to breach the ship and get in here, they'll hopefully be stopped by these turrets. And also, if somebody does manage to get into the large open area of the ship, this is one of the easiest ways into the bridge, and that's one of the reasons those turrets are facing inward, so they can cover both doors more easily. Anyway, let's head up here through this little airlock. I have a lot of double door airlocks in the ship, that way if areas are depressurized, ideally you could get in your suit and then depressurize the airlock, get out and repair anything that needs to be repaired, or even man a station even though it's been depressurized. This is another airlock on the other side of the ship that leads to the other docking area for large ships. But at this point we actually have these ladders here, and they both go to the same place, and I'll get to these stairs in a minute. But basically what they do is they lead all the way down to a center area, which then leads down farther to basically that large corridor along the bottom of the ship. And if we had gone up all those ladders, they basically led us to the large corridor on the top of the ship. So basically, I don't need to show you that. You get the gist of it. I do have a turret here because that's an easily boarded area. I wanted this defended. So hopefully that'll do something if the ship was to be boarded through those turret areas. But then again, maybe it wouldn't be so easy to board through a turret area because there's a turret there and it hopefully shoot you. I'm just going to really quickly go all the way up to the top to show you the other corridor section on the top of the ship, which actually has a much higher ceiling, and we actually have a stairwell here, and there you go. This goes all the way down the ship. And of course there's like 2 or 3 turret sections up there that we can't access this way. We'd have to run over here, run up this ladder, and then run down the corridor actually on top of the ship that's slightly exposed. Anyway, now we're going to go back down to the main level of the ship, which should be right about here. Yep, there it is. And again, that's the airlock. This is sort of a 4-way airlock, which is a bit finicky, but I ended up getting sort of cramped for space and whatnot. So you can hope that nobody's trying to get through here while somebody's trying to get on or off the ship. And then again, if they are, though, remember that down below, the paths connect to actually the other side of the ship over here. So you can always use, a bunch of different ways to get up. Now, first we're going to go down here. Now that we're at these stairs, and you can see not much light down here. Sort of an issue. Maybe I'll fix it, maybe I won't before I put it up on the Steam Workshop. But in here we have basically the medical room, and I definitely should have put lights in here and forgot to. There we go, lights are in, just made a quick save. But yeah, this is the medical area, and you can see we have 2 emergency reactors right here to keep the medical respawn stations working, even if the main reactors are somehow taken out or damaged. And then we have this storage thing here. Oh no, I've just realized, I think these are upside down, are they? That's what you get for building from a distance. So the main problem is I've been building from a distance with the new Symmetry tools. It basically means you don't need to be walking up right inside it. I'll be floating pretty far away. Oh wow, I still have Symmetry on, so that's created some issues there. Let's shut that off really quick. But yeah, I've been creating from basically hovering above everything, putting even this stuff in, so it's created a few issues, you might say. But yeah, there we go. Not that hard to fix. Yeah, not that hard to fix. Let's really quickly save again. It's a big ship, like I said, so, you end up missing stuff. But anyway, as I was saying before, I realized I screwed up there, is I have the cargo container here. The idea behind that is maybe you'd have medical supplies or maybe emergency weapons in there. That way, if you respawn, you don't actually still have your weapon with you. You could really quickly grab a weapon out of there if the ship's in serious trouble, and then run back up to deal with whoever's trying to board the ship. And I don't believe there's anything else down here. I originally thought maybe I'd have a hallway going right here, but I decided against that because of limited space and other things down there, and, well, these ladders going down there as well, and then the fact that they connect, it's all quite busy down there. Now anyway, if we go up here, you can see turrets, so this area is already far more defended than the medical room. That's because this is sort of like the command quarters, where higher ranking personnel would sleep and live basically when they're not in the control room. And basically this is like the basic setup of their sleeping area. There's not much in the game, so I'm still going with these little barricades on their side as the idea of where a bed was, and here's sort of like where their personal storage would be. If we head back out this way, it's of course mirrored on this side, And if we head down, you see some turrets defending the high-ranking personnel as they're sleeping. This is sort of storage. I'm not sure what it would be used for. Maybe their personal effects. Maybe it would be sort of important documents or stuff that's being transported from point A to point B and needed to be kept very safe up here. This is another room. I think this one's actually slightly bigger than the last one. Might be actually the biggest one on the ship, so that might be where the captain sleeps and maybe first officer or whatnot. Who knows? Up here was originally going to be their own private mess hall. It still could technically be one, but I was also thinking it could be used as a planning area where this would be a big holographic projector. Obviously, you don't have anything like that, so this is just sort of a placeholder for the time being where it would project maybe statistics where they'd plan their next mission, all that. Now let's quickly head back down this huge hallway, which is one of the only really roomy area on the ship if you don't count the hangar bays. So it would be sort of nice to be up there. Actually, there is one other roomy area I just remembered, but I'll show you that in a bit. Now let's really quickly, I think the bridge was, yeah, that way, so now we can start heading this way. And we should come across another sort of nicer room, yep, for another higher ranking officer. Now we'll head, yep, another room, head down here, and we reach another fork, and oh, wow, I had more of those rooms than I thought I did. So we got 4 on this floor and 4 on the floor up above, which are slightly bigger than that main hallway you just saw. Oh, excuse me, my throat gave me some trouble there. Anyway, if we carry down here, you do see that we have a turret. Actually, this was intended to have 2 turrets that I somehow forgot to put in there. It's a bit weird. Anyway, you can see we have 2 turrets here. The idea behind these is if the ship is indeed boarded, it would hopefully stop anybody from making it down that way. If we come through here, turrets are also right there because it's so close to another one of these things. Actually, no, this isn't one of the ones I thought it was that lead up and down to the turrets. This is something different. We'll actually go down here. And remember, this would basically be the same thing if we had gone up, so I'm not going to show you if we go up. But you come in here, you have more storage containers, and these are mainly for like piloting spacesuits, spaceship repair tools, or anything like that, because through this door here leads into the hangar, which is very dark, and that's part of the idea is maybe this ship wouldn't want that many lights on the outside or where they could see. I was originally thinking of putting in these reflector lights in here as I did in previous hangars, but I decided against it because of the lag and because of the light issue I was just talking about. What we have here are more of those conveyors I was talking about earlier for fuel, because the idea behind that is they actually go up 1 block and then they carry along this way and actually along the other way to large storage containers I'll go show you now. And the idea behind that is there'd be fuel in there for smaller fighters and maybe more materials to repair the said small fighters if they were damaged in combat. And you can actually access those large containers right here. And actually, I think that one's upside down, but it doesn't really matter. Again, this was me placing stuff from a distance. You can see the large container. Now, let's keep going down the ship. Basically, on this doorway section right here, we have 2 more of those things because it's a mirrored image of the other side of the hangar, basically. So, same thing here, just on the other side of the hangar, and then it's basically the same gist if you go all the way up, which I will actually show you just to make sure it's all been seen. If you go all the way up, it's the same sort of thing, just at the top. Now, as I said before, I did originally want this to be upside down, so basically people here would be walking, you know, feet would be there, head there, and people down here would be feet here, head there. But of course, as I said, the ship wasn't big enough that way to put a gravity generator way down there and a gravity generator way up there and split the difference right about there. So that ended up not happening. It changed some of the designs of the ship, but in the end, it wasn't really that big of a problem for me to change because I hadn't started doing the interior yet. That was still, oops, during the planning phases. And also, this hallway here actually runs between the 2 hangar floors. So that's the floor of the one hangar, and that's the ceiling of the other. Very, very thin, could be damaged, but I was working with reduced space inside the ship, which is one of the reasons all these hallways are so cramped. Now we've come to another fork. We have another turret here to guard against people boarding the ship through that area, and just to make sure the hallways are safe. If we come down this stairwell, nice and dark, Jesus, but this leads us to the armory, and basically there's a big room where the weapons and whatnot would be stored in all these cargo containers along the sides. So there's not much to this room. I like the design of it, but overall it's basically just weapon storage. Hopefully in the future maybe there'd be sort of other types of weapons crates or whatever I could put in here to fill it up, and who knows what else, but it's ready to be expanded in the future, and overall I think it looks pretty cool. It's got the turrets to defend the armory in case it's been breached by enemies. Now if we head back up here and carry on with the way we were going, by the way, this leads down to the same exact place, just on the other side. Another turret here to defend what are just random storage areas. Who knows what would be stored there? Maybe tools to repair stuff, who knows? Right here we have what is the mess hall for the crew, and actually since the other area might not be a mess hall for the commanding officers, this might be the only mess hall in the ship. But if the other one does get turned into a mess hall instead of a sort of planning area, then of course the commanding officers would all eat up there, and this would be only the normal folk of the ship, the repairers, the combat, and the pilots. Now if we come down here, we have more storage. Maybe this would be their personal stuff for the lower ranking officers and peoples of the ship. And here we have what is basically one of the bunk rooms for everyone else in the ship, of course mirrored over here. We carry down the rest of the ship, another turret there to defend it, and we go through here. This leads us down to, okay, more hangars. It's a big ship, you can get lost, I get turned around. So this is basically more hangars, just like I showed you before. They're all the same. Basically, when I was actually building these, what I did was, I of course had, let me get the tool out, had that middle green thing on, so both sides of the ship were reflected, but at times, you know, and often I usually had, or is it, this one on as well, so that the top and bottom of the ship would be reflected, at least when I was working on the outside. But when I was working on the inside of the hangar and sort of, let's see, get back to that and remove it, the main little storage areas that are inside these things, and here I put that red thing right where I just put it out there. You can see it's right in the middle, and basically that way when I was building this room, it would be mirrored on the other side, and it sped things up a whole lot and was really, really nice and useful. Anyway, let's exit that. Don't need that now, and actually we don't need that either. So now let's head back down to the central floor again and carry on with our tour. Oh, I've passed it again. Bit fickle trying to jet back up and down these ladders, but it's a lot quicker than just using them normally, as you would have to when the ship's in motion. Of course, for those two hangar bays, we have these cargo containers again. Those ones are actually right side up. If we come all the way down here, more cargo containers. Of course, behind them, they're both connected and they lead to the floors, so that ships can be refueled or repaired with whatever would be stored inside there. We have more barracks and stuff here. They would still have to go all the way down there to eat, though, unfortunately. Bit of a run, but who knows. And now in here, if we actually go through this door, this is sort of the combat planning area. Or maybe calling it the combat planning area isn't right, but the sort of area where the pilots and maybe troops who are going to be doing boarding missions would gather in here while whoever tells them what the hell they should be doing. And basically this is mirrored on the other side, so we're going to have, oh, briefing room, that's what it should be called, the briefing room. There we go. So we basically have two briefing rooms, one on the other side mirrored of each other. I actually like a whole lot the fact that I put those inset lights up there. I'll just run in there really quickly because I'm really happy with how it turned out. Basically had those stuck up there, so in the distance it just sort of shines down. I still wish the lights would actually shine further. I wish they were all basically live lights. What do you call it? Ray traced? No. Anyway, dynamic. That's the word I was looking for. I wish they were all dynamic. That would be nice, but of course the game would lag itself completely to bits then. In this hallway we have two more turrets, and we also have the windows here. That way if maybe these rooms are full up, or maybe, I don't know, it would just be nice to be able to look in there, but if they are full up and it's a big briefing, that way people could be up here as well instead of just down there or down there. Now if we carry along the ship, I have to make another cut because my throat is getting dry and had to drink something, but if we carry along the ship, we'll get to more turrets and defend it. Those are just scattered everywhere. This area, I believe, is another set of, yep, docking area. Those leads up and down those ladders to docking zones, or not really docking, but hangar bays. And then we get all the way up here to the front of the ship, more things leading to the other side of that hangar bay. Now this is a bit strange, right? Suddenly looking into what looks like a massive room in this. That is because if we use this ladder, and don't glitch out like we just did, if we use this ladder, and I have to actually go down, because it's changed the way we're walking, we can get off the ladder here. We're gonna have to use our jetpack, it's glitched out, but whoa! What is going on? That's not right. Anyway, the idea is you climb through that area on the ladder, and it switches from walking like this to walking like this. And we have our turrets here to defend against anybody who's boarded the ship in this area. Also, because of this door here, there's one on the other side. This leads out into basically more gyroscopes, and also into the sort of inner workings of the ship again, which, as I've said before, I should have turrets scattered about somewhere in here. Really hard to find them all, but basically this leads all up and down the whole ship in crawl spaces and whatnot, and I need turrets to defend just in case this area is boarded. Any turrets I do have in here don't stop the enemies and they get through that door where I just was, which I now seem to be lost. I think it's up here. Aha! That is not it. Yep. Oh no, there it is. Okay. Whew. The fact that it changes from, you know, walking like this to walking like this really throws you off too. Anyway, let's fly back through here. And now, in this area, this is actually the communications tower, or communications room, whatever you want to call it. And this is at the very front of the ship, and basically we have the big communications pylons and a ladder going all the way up to the top, or very front of the ship. And if we fly up into here, we can actually, oh yeah, turrets here, just in case anybody gets on board through the way I'm going right now. It leads us up to this little crawl space here, and all these ladders lead basically the same sort of thing. It leads up to, oof, I just hit my head on it. It leads up to those missile turrets at the very front of the ship. And that's why we had those two turrets down there at the start of those big ladders in the communications room, is because if anybody boards through this and isn't taken out by the missiles, which actually maybe hopefully the missiles wouldn't shoot somebody if they were, let's say, right here, because it might do some damage to the whole ship. That way, once they hop down here and, aha, I'm inside the ship. It is mine. They can't stop me now. I'll just jump on this. Oh, look, guns. And hopefully they'll be shot. And even if they don't and they fall all the way down here, hopefully if the fall doesn't kill them, those turrets will. So the ship is sort of defended from that. Anyway, I think that's the gist of the inside of the ship. It's sort of a big, confusing maze in a lot of ways. And if we run all the way down back to the bridge, I can now take it for a bit of a spin and show you how ridiculous it is when it's trying to fly about.